Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 2024 Widow Empowerment event virtual. We are having an empowering day, and whether you're here live or whether you're in person, whether you're in person or you're watching this afterwards, we're just so happy that you signed up. We actually have 7 countries represented and 40 of the US states represented with all of our attendees. So these health webinars are reaching around the world, and we're so excited. My name is Carolyn Moore, and I'm the founder of Modern Widows Club. And in 2011, I opened up my living room and honestly had no idea it was going to grow into MWC, Modern Widows Club, or the movement for widow care. But here we are today. The ladies all over the country and all over the world have resonated with the women's health topics that we're known for. And each webinar session, like I said, is recorded. So you can rewind it, replay it. It's yours to keep and to enjoy. And during this session, I would just encourage you to sit back and relax and enjoy, maybe take some notes, and just feel the love and the support from all of our speakers. They've been hand chosen for many of the topics that we know that our community really wants more knowledge in. And so this next session, I want to share with you, and I have the honor of introducing and welcoming Hilary Gates, who is one of our Ambassador Council members, and also Azurae Redmond, who is the leader for our Black Widows community. And they're going to be talking today on empowering every voice. We're going to be embracing the LGBTQ plus community and the BIPOC widows, and really learning about the unique challenges that they have. I'm here to learn, and I just want to thank both of them for being here. Hello, Hilary and Azurae.
Hi.
Azurae is popping on. Hilary is going to do the first part of our presentation, and so I'm just going to let you take it from here, Hilary.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me. And what a pleasure to be here and be able to have this platform and voice. So thank you to Carolyn. Really glad to be alongside Azurae as well. And I really want to make sure that you hear what Carolyn just said, which is we're all about the love, right? So I know many of us have different reasons for being here, but if we can all agree that the most important thing is that we are here to love our community and make it better. So in that vein, I think our goals, not only for this presentation, but also for our club in general, is to better understand our community and each other's needs, and find a way to elevate the compassion of our community. All of us would agree that it's already quite compassionate, because otherwise we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have felt welcome to talk about these types of things. But we could probably make it even better, especially for historically marginalized populations like the LGBTQ plus population. Just to level set and make sure that I don't make assumptions about levels of knowledge or definitions. From the GLAAD website, I wanted to just review the terms LGBTQ plus one by one. A lesbian is often a woman who is enduring, who has enduring physical, romantic, and emotional attraction to other women. You may encounter women who would be preferred to be referred to as gay, but lesbian is also an acceptable term. The term gay is a person who is attracted to people of the same sex. The term bisexual, or sometimes bi, is a person who has the potential to be physically, romantically, or emotionally attracted to people of more than one gender, not necessarily at the same time or in the same way or to the same degree. And the bi refers to genders the same as and different from one's own gender. The term transgender is an adjective that describes people whose gender identity differs from the sex they were assigned at birth. The Q in this terminology is queer, and it's an adjective used by some people, often younger people, whose sexual orientation is not exclusively heterosexual. Sometimes the terms lesbian, gay, and bisexual are too limiting or fraught with cultural connotations they don't feel apply to them. You'll also see that sometimes the Q means questioning. And finally, the plus symbol signifies gender identities and sexual orientations that letters and words cannot yet fully describe. It's important to understand the scope of this. And so we were talking earlier about how research on widowhood mostly focuses on heterosexual couples. It's hard to find much around the LGBTQ community in terms of widows or widowhood. And I've had my source down here on the bottom right for some of this research. It does, of course, say that additional barriers and stressors occur for the LGBTQ plus community. And those include homophobia, failure to acknowledge the relationship, more legal and financial issues than perhaps the heterosexual community endures. And although it feels like a long time ago, there is a shadow of HIV or AIDS, especially for the gay male population. One or two of the questions that are often asked when we think about the scope of the population and what they're enduring is, was the relationship disclosed and acknowledged in life and into bereavement? And then in what ways does this impact their needs after the partner passes away and their access to care? And it is important to note that in our own community, in the Modern Widows Club, there are more than 70 members who identify as part of this community. So they may be sitting right next to you. We also know that as a marginalized population, socially excluded populations like LGBTQ plus and the BIPOC population have poorer access to care. They are facing discrimination and stigma, micro and macro aggressions, and especially for older couples who have gone through the majority of their relationship not being recognized and being marginalized. This is a really difficult experience. And if you put that equation together, it's pretty grim that the LGBTQ plus member being a widow makes them doubly marginalized. What are some of the things that they might experience? They may face eviction from a home that they own together. They may have to keep coming out to people, hospital staff, medical staff, administrators, funeral staff, attendees of the funeral that perhaps they haven't interacted with. I read one person's experience in this case where at the funeral of her spouse, she had people she didn't know very well coming up to her and saying, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know you were gay." And she felt that that was a statement that made her sexuality more important than the loss of her spouse. Of course, these types of populations can be disowned or ostracized by family members that may have accepted them during the relationship, but as soon as the spouse or partner passes away, things change. They can be excluded from funerals in some cases, lose inheritance, and have a hard time finding someone for a funeral or a celebration of life, as someone stated in this research, who will understand and approve the love felt for the partner who's gone. In some cases, they may lose custody of children that they have taken care of together for their relationship. And all of these things, of course, lead to more and more stress and health and mental effects, of course. I also came across a term that I hadn't seen before when I was doing research for this, and that's this sense of disenfranchised or hidden grief. And as if grief wasn't painful and difficult enough, in populations like the LGBTQ plus community and the BIPOC community, things may be going on that make the grief even less acknowledged. So it's defined as grief that isn't recognized by other people or seen as significant. And as you probably can assume, grief that can't be made public, perhaps because the relationship is not acknowledged. So I invite you, if you haven't thought about this before, to just take a moment to understand that a person sitting next to you or a person who is experiencing this ostracism, on top of the pain and the deep grief that we're already going through as widows, has something even more painful, or makes their experience even more painful because of this ostracism. And this isn't just the community that we're discussing, but it can also be numerous other things that I've listed here in these bullet points. So think of, for instance, someone you were with for only a short time. Was that relationship acknowledged the same way that a long, decades-long relationship would be? Maybe it was part of an illicit affair. Maybe it was someone who you might consider a friend with benefits. And other types of things that can happen here regarding, legal status or being involved in a crime, or the death was caused by suicide, or there were addiction or mental health issues. All of these can make the grief that a person is experiencing even more painful. And I just bring this up to understand that there are other populations and other situations that are going on beyond what I've described here as the LGBTQ plus population. And in our leaders' grand words of "this is all about love," this is what we need to be considering. So Carolyn and the leadership of Modern Widows Club has really been intentional about practicing compassion and having conversations with community chapters that very importantly, in grief, there should not be consideration for your partner's gender. And really exciting that this is being recognized by some of our funders, including the Central Florida Foundation, which has given a grant to the Modern Widows Club for diversity, equity, and inclusion programs like these. So we're really glad that people recognize the value and importance of this. So what should you do as a member of a Modern Widows Club, whether it's online, on social media, or in person? What can you do to make people feel included and to ensure that they are feeling belonging and not feeling like they are somehow foreign or not accepted? In my very kind of simple approach to this, I think most of this has to do with how words matter. And that is that we tend to fixate or go back on things like the word husband or my man or he, him, things like that, without kind of considering what effect that might have on someone else. And so I urge you to consider using gender neutral terms such as spouse, partner, or even person. And that can really go a long way in creating a community that makes everyone feel comfortable and not ostracized. If you've done any research on trauma and really read about the effects of this traumatic event on our psyche, you may have come across an incredible author and Dr. Gabor Mate, who talks about the kind of physical effects of trauma, but also how, in his book, he calls it "The Body Keeps the Score," which is the name of his book, and how safety is not the absence of a threat, but it's the presence of a connection. So there's more that we need to do in this realm than just say, I'm not going to say anything, or I'm going to try to avoid the topic, because that's maybe the absence of a threat, but really creating that presence of connection so that all of our widows in our community feel safe and included. So I would urge you to say to yourself and to others that this is my community, this is our community, and we will actively participate in creating a community of acceptance and support. And I'll turn it over to Azurae for her section. And I want to thank you all for being here today. Thanks.
Well done. Thank you so much. Azurae, we're looking forward to yours now.
Thank you so much. As I stated, my name is Azurae Redmond, and I am an NAACP nonprofit founder of a nonprofit called Young Black and Widowed that has served over 4,000 widows and widowers in the last 4 years. And I was so grateful when the Modern Widows Club asked me to start their Black Widows community. And right now, our community has over 300 members at the Modern Widows Club. And I am so overjoyed at the amount of inclusivity that the Modern Widows Club has displayed and really sewn into their entire mission to be inclusive of BIPOC people. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of a background about my personal story of how I came to this came to my position that I'm in right now, because I was actually just a typical woman. I never thought that I would be widowed at 27, but that's what happened. So in 2017, I was widowed by lung cancer to my wonderful husband, who just happened to be white. We met in college. We were both studying engineering. I was studying chemical engineering and he was an electrical engineer. At the time of his passing, I was 5 months pregnant and I had our 10-month-old on my hip. Those two boys are now amazing first graders who are enjoying every bit of life, even though, and especially because one of my children has profound autism. When I was widowed, I was actually very surprised at the first response that I got. There was a church down the street that I still live down the street from that we had been a part of for over 4 years, since he had gotten his job as an electrical engineer in Chattanooga. And the night my husband passed away in the hospital, we were a part of a Sunday school of married couples. There were 40 married couples. And I was the only Black person in this church of thousands. And they said to me that I unfortunately would need to make sure that the following Sunday I went to the singles class because I was no longer married and it wouldn't be right for me to be a part of the Sunday school class that I had been a part of for 4 years. And I want to point out that that actually was racially motivated. Black women are actually extremely over-sexualized. I can guarantee to all of you all, as you could imagine, I was not interested in being with anyone else's husband. I just wanted to be around the friends that I considered nearly family that I had gotten to know, who even had been there for me through our first birth, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one way that I felt very much not included. The next thing was that I did find a group in Chattanooga locally on Signal Mountain for young widows. And of course, I was an extreme outlier, being that I was 27. That's like an infantile widow. Their definition of young was 40s, late 40s, early 50s. Certainly no one was pregnant and their children had already gotten through college. And I had my chance to speak in that I'm sorry, in that group. And I said that I was really afraid of what it was going to be like to be seen as a stereotypical single Black mom. There is no right way to lead your life. And I don't want anyone to ever walk away from my presentation thinking that I even think that way. But in my 27-year-old brain, I was like, I went to college. I graduated with my degree in engineering. We got a job. We're homeowners. Everything is just fine. It's perfect. We have our church family. Now I'm going to just be considered something that I'm not. At the time, I didn't know that I was going to be able to keep my home. I wasn't aware that there are Social Security benefits for people that have young children. I didn't know that everything had been set out for me and that I was going to be okay. I'm still in the home that we were in before. I had no idea. I didn't know if I was going to have to be a part of Section 8. I had no idea, and I was afraid of what it was going to be like to be put in that situation. And while being pregnant, I was unable to work, of course, to go back into a field like chemical engineering with high hours. And unfortunately, the response from the leaders of that group was, why would you being Black or different or younger make any difference at all? Why would that be anything that you'd even have to consider? Why would that even matter? Why would that be a different challenge than what we're going through? And being that, again, I was the only in several categories, I realized that I wasn't really in a safe space because I wasn't asking for their sympathy or even empathy. I just needed my feelings to be validated that this very scary and real situation had happened. Um, I had incidents. I live in a wonderful neighborhood, and I had incidents where there were people coming around saying, they actually said to my face, it was okay when you had a white husband living here, but now that you're just a single Black, and they use a different choice of words, we don't want you to be here anymore, and we can't wait for you to leave our neighborhood because you'll never be able to stay here. And they did a lot of things to try and make me leave, like trespassing on my beautiful property for no reason at all, even on 24/7 video multiple times, and had been asked by police to stop trespassing because there was no reason. So that is something that I have dealt with, that I know that other people who are not BIPOC have also dealt with, but it is magnified when you are a Black person. My neighbors were aware that I was just as educated, if not more, than my late husband. We had never thrown parties. I still to this day have never been a noise or complaint issue. And I have continued to live my beautiful life with my two boys as head of this household because it is mine. It's me and my two sons live here, and that is all. And that was a very stiff and difficult pill to swallow, that so many things could change from my church and with the friends and in the community and even with my own neighbors, just because my husband had passed away. And I'm speaking to you all of this not because I think that there is a certain subset of people who are all like this. I don't want you all to think that at all. I just want you to know that these are the things that a lot of BIPOC women go through, especially even if they're not in an interracial relationship like I was, with my husband being white and me being Black. So that actually led me to begin thinking about how I can create a safe space for people. So in 2020, I started my nonprofit called Young Black and Widowed. As I said in the beginning, it is an NAACP awarding um, nonprofit. I am also the forward writer and contributing author to a book called Widowed Parents Unite, which shines a light on my experiences. And again, we've helped almost 4,000 Black widows and widowers. We help people of all ages, all ethnicities, all faiths, and of course, our LGBTQ community. And that's what made us so different. So about 3 years after that, when the Modern Widows Club came to me and said, Azurae, you would be the perfect person to start our Modern Widows Club Black Widows community. I was so honored. I was like, yes, I want to do this. I want to help you do this. Within, I believe, 6 months, we had almost 300 people, and we're growing every single day because Carolyn Moore and the CEO of the Modern Widows Club saw that there is a need that was not being addressed. And I am so thankful and so happy that you will have reached out and made this an inclusive community. What people might not be aware, who are not BIPOC, who are not part of the Black or African American community specifically, is that a lot of times we are told to just simply be strong Black women, and that's it. There is no mental health support. You are looked down upon potentially if you do have a psychologist or psychiatrist. Support groups are not even heard of. And most people don't even know that wonderful conferences, even virtual ones like this, even exists to help people who are grieving. So when people come to the Modern Widows Club, Black Widows community, or even my own nonprofit, they are learning these things that other groups and other communities have known for years and years and years. They are gaining support that no one could have possibly fathomed for them. I mean, the Modern Widows Club has tests that you can take to help you along your journey. They have courses, they have Zooms. They support the people also who are leading the support groups. Cindy Toledo does an amazing job of that. And then on top of that, what do we also have at the Modern Widows Club? We have the dating group, we have the book club, we have the parenting group, and we have an amazing travel group that has been so welcoming to the Black widows and the Black community of the Modern Widows Club. And that is exactly how the Modern Widows Club has reached across the aisle to be the most inclusive and just awe-inspiring group. And I am so thankful that they have taken up the mantle to be that light for the Black community. And there are so many Black widows who had nowhere to go, and now they have this wonderful place. And we're just so thankful to be here. And I am so honored to be a part of the Modern Widows Club. So that leads me to my last point. You're saying, well, what can I do if I'm like in a group with a Black widow and how do I make her feel welcome? Well, as the Black widows come from my group, and then they also join the regional groups that are located across the United States and in the world, be sure to send that direct message and say, hey, you know what? I'd love to get coffee with you at so and such. Looks like we only live 30 minutes away. Let me get to know you. If you're on a trip, be sure to sit down with her and say hello. If you're in the parenting club and they ask a question or something and you've also had that experience too, strike up a conversation, become Facebook friends if that's what you would like, and if that's agreed to between both people, right? Don't be afraid to reach out, because I promise you have so many things in common that you might not have realized. And that is what I have found in every situation, that at the Modern Widows Club, it doesn't really matter your age, your orientation, your ethnicity, anything, that we all share the fact that we are widowed people. And now, as a person who is repartnered, and again, Hilary Gates did explain what I use the word partner instead of husband, et cetera, et cetera. Now that I'm repartnered to another wonderful man that my kids call dad, I am so thankful still to have this amazing community and still to be a light for widows of all ages, ethnicities, faiths, and orientations. And I'm so thankful that you all were able to listen to me today. If you have any questions, I know we have people from several states and even researchers who are watching. You can email me at blackwidows@modernwidowsclub.org, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, or you can type them into the chat as well. Thank you so much for your time and attention. And again, my name is Azurae Redmond, and I lead the Modern Widows Club's Black Widows community.
You're here. We're having a watch party in Orlando, and you're not hearing it, but they're all applauding right now. And I can understand why, because my heart is so full with this session. We have a couple minutes, so I'm going to read some of the comments that we had. I love what Natalie said here. How can this be taught in the workplace or in school communities? I have such a hard time with people assuming that my 43-year-old Latina husband didn't pass away from drugs or a car accident or alcohol. He passed away suddenly from a rare heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
And Sherry says, grief is difficult enough without having ignorant and rude people treating widows this way. Sending my love to you. She also wrote, Azurae, thank you for this. I'm in a very similar situation with a toddler. my husband suddenly died and other moms not wanting me around.
Mhm.
It's so hard. And I find myself over-explaining my situation. And Erica says, I too was in an interracial marriage. My husband, Zach, was white. What compelled me to stay? What compelled you to stay where you live despite all of the racism? You can answer that if you would
Oh,
like.
yes, I'd love to. I don't know if it can spotlight me so they can see me really just for briefly. So a lot of people ask me that question. They will see me in a lot of very white spaces. I'm also on the board of direct trustees of a mental health hospital called Moccasin Bend. I frequently am at downtown Rotary events. I meet with the mayors, et cetera, et cetera. I'm on their councils, et cetera. And people say, well, why are you in so many white spaces? But you also go into the Black spaces. And my answer to that is, for one, I want to stay in my home because it's paid off. But for two, and I don't have to worry about it. And I love it here. It's absolutely beautiful. If you could actually see the background, no need to see it. It is on the beautiful side of a mountain. And number two, the point is that my existence in itself is a form of protest. And I don't want that word to be too harsh. I don't want you all to hear the word protest and think that I'm out there with my little stick, protesting, but my existence and being professional and remaining professional and being in these spaces, making sure that I stay in spaces where my two children receive the best education possible in my area, making sure that they have the best opportunities, making sure that they go to summer camp at Baylor and, all the different other schools and have all these opportunities is something that's really important to me. And when I walk into these spaces that are generally very welcoming, so I don't want people to hear those boards that I've mentioned and think that they're not. It changes people's perspectives. It changes the stigma because then they've met a young Black widowed woman who is a homeowner, who has a degree in chemical engineering, who is raising her two children, who is repartnered, though we live apart together. So he has his house that he owns. I have my house that I own, and we actually visit with our 4 kids back and forth and have a wonderful time. We're only like 20 minutes away. It's not that big a deal. And I like changing the narrative. I am a young, modern widow. And if other people are not introduced to me, if they're not around me, if I am not in those rooms talking about my nonprofit that I founded and also the Modern Widows Club, of course, which I also want to say I've been following the Modern Widows Club since the day I was widowed. Carolyn is my absolute hero. And I cannot tell you, I mean, I saw her on Oprah. I cannot tell you how I am appreciative of all the work that you do, but by being in those spaces, we create opportunities for all other people who are in the BIPOC community. Otherwise, if they have never had that experience, what would it be like? So
right.
that is why I stay in these spaces, and that is why I am happy to just continue being the professional that I am.
Thank you for that so much. Yeah, right. Applaud. There were Christina wrote, what are ways we can reach widows in underserved communities like the LGBTQ and BIPOC and let them know there are groups like MWC out there where they can feel safe to come to? How can we reach the women? Well, I'll let you all ponder that on your own. We are always exploring that question, Christina, here at MWC. And we want everyone's answers on that. It's why we have an ambassador council that Hilary is on, and that's where our board has several different working committees for community service, for fund development, and also strategic impact. So we are actively working on that answer. We do have a prize to give away, and it's, well, I think the two of you are legendary widows, and so we are giving away a Legendary Widows book. This is an MWC featuring 12 legendary widows, hopefully the first book of a series of 7. There's so many legendary widows to write about. And that's going to go to Candace B. We will send you an email and get this book into your hands. But I want to encourage everyone to go to our new website and go take a look. It's all brand new. We are looking for an LGBTQ leaders to launch that community this year, and the Black Widows continues to grow, and we want to welcome more. We also have a Spanish-speaking community that will be relaunching next month. So thank you all for being here, and I hope to see you. I hope you felt some love in this session, and I want to see you at more events and programs and services and at all the resources that we have here. Thank you, Azurae and Hilary. This was amazing. So impressed. Love you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.